Alrighty, we are live. It's weird, our audio sounds much louder than normal. I don't know, something fishy's going on. Maybe we're using a different video player today, so I don't know if that had something to do with it. It seemed to keep it louder for a longer period of time, like it has a compressor on it or something.
I just changed over to VLC player so that we can control things a little bit better, and we can also show our videos without that obnoxious volume thing.
Yeah. Hopefully we're moving in the right direction. I've also created a script, and I have created a diagram of our entire setup. We were hoping to film how our live stream setup works video today. And then I was like, before we start filming, let me just build a diagram, because that's going to really simplify things. And then it's the most ridiculous looking diagram ever. So then I thought, well, before filming, I should really write a script, because this could, like, if you don't write a script, usually we don't write scripts for our videos, but if you don't write a script for something this complicated, there's a very good chance you could ramble on and the video could end up being an hour long.
And you miss something, you don't cover some very specific element.
So I sat down for hours today and drew this diagram with all the wires and stuff, and then just wrote a script of every single thing I want to say. And I said, let's just film it tomorrow. So hopefully we can get that done tomorrow.
So on the other F-Stoppers channel, we will have the behind the scenes of how to run a live show 3 different ways.
Yeah, it's like easy, middle, and then stupid, the way that we currently have it right now. And then the truth is, I mean, we are still barely scratching the surface of what's possible.
Yeah, what did you send me today? You said you need to look at this automated software that can do a lot
so
of
I think
stuff.
it's called Streamlab. OBS is software that everybody uses for screen recording and stuff, but I think it's called Streamlab OBS, and it's just made for streamers. And there's lots of super cool features and stuff that you can do with that. It's just much easier to manage, one, if you have a producer manning it, or there's 2 of us with laptops doing stuff on the fly. We're trying to keep our set clean here and not have laptops in our laps and our heads down the entire time. That was the dream. But anyway, we've been watching you guys talk trash in the comments. Somebody said the first big error would be when I said, let's check the numbers. So let's check the numbers.
Little did they know that the first error would be the music's too loud.
Yeah, that one wasn't too bad. In the United States, 1.7 million cases, and we are right on the verge. I mean, I can't believe we haven't hit 100,000.
Seems like we just didn't report today because it was a holiday or something.
Oh, I guess that could be true.
Yeah, we don't count deaths on holidays, right?
Probably not all hospitals. You're probably right about that. So I'm gonna go ahead and report 100,000 dead in the United States. Worldwide, 5.5 million cases, 347,000 deaths, and yeah, not the best of news there. Anything
overall, though, today is Memorial Day. This is the day that we honor fallen soldiers throughout our history. It's also a day where people just go out and act crazy, and drink and get sunburned and everything else.
I got some pretty good video. Did you see the video that, like, from the helicopter where they're like, there's a guy throwing money out of the top of this car?
No.
Well, I've got a clip here.
Well, I was going to ask you if you did anything fun today, but it sounds like you just made a diagram. And
yeah. Did you
get out of the house?
I did get out of the house. Just saw a couple friends like an hour or 2 ago.
Did you get all sweaty? What's going on?
I did a little pajama wrestling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've showered. I'm clean now.
Do you feel like you've lost it?
It was funny. My buddy Isaac, he was like, Lee, you got to take more time off, man. Like, you've gotten way better in your downtime, which was funny because I feel like...
Was he mocking you, or...
No.
You felt like you were getting better?
He was beating me, I would say, the majority of our rolls, but then I'd end up reversing him and, beating him at the last second. But I would feel like I was still being dominated for most of the fight. But from his perspective, I was beating him, and that's the bottom line. That's all that really matters.
All that's happening is everyone's just getting fatter and lazier in quarantine. So it's like, who will
We're all going downhill at an equal pace. Well, let's go ahead and watch this first video. I think this is called Memorial Day Chaos.
Memorial Day chaos.
Oh,
There's two people
big
out
failure.
the sunroof throwing money.
From Daytona, where crowds shut down traffic, to the Lake of the Ozarks, where people swam on top of each other for hours.
Let me back up so you can see the guy throwing the money.
Memorial Day chaos.
There's two people out the sunroof throwing money.
From Daytona, where crowds
Oh, I
shut down
did see this
traffic,
guy.
to the Lake of the Ozarks, where people swam on top of each other for hours. Social distancing nowhere to be found.
I'm not too, worried about the whole COVID thing.
With Illinois beaches closed, thousands flocked to neighboring Indiana. You could barely make out the sand. And in Maryland, there is joy and worry on the Ocean City Boardwalk.
We're excited for Maryland, we're excited for the country to reopen. The concern is that we do it too soon, and if we're going to do it, we do it responsibly.
The concern is justified. 25 states reported increases in their average new COVID-19 cases yesterday, and at least 4 states spiked to record highs over the weekend. In Arkansas, a second peak in cases was traced back to a high school pool party.
I'm sure everybody thought it was harmless. They're young, they're swimming, they're just having activity, and positive cases resulted from that.
Yeah, I learned something.
What'd you learn?
Sign language for swimming is this. I think. Maybe this is fun.
Yeah.
I saw a clip today that I did not put in here, I don't think. And they were saying that they were looking at the number of travelers to Florida over this weekend compared to last year, and it was still down like 50%. You know, obviously they haven't been able to count today when they had this news clip. It probably came out yesterday, but maybe they said 80,000 cars come into Florida over this weekend. And at the time of reporting yesterday, they had counted, I want to say like 20 or 40,000 cars.
Okay.
So it was like half as many as normal. So it doesn't seem like it's that crazy. You know, the guy with the money, I don't know what was going on there. Kristen was telling me that it's like Black College reunion weekend or something. There's some thing going on that happens every year.
Okay.
So I guess you
And you got to make it rain?
You got to make it rain.
Okay.
But, you know, I've been saying this in many of our shows. When you take that telephoto lens and you shoot at 200 or 400 millimeters, and you say things like, the sand is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, that's
It's
a
like,
little misleading.
If you go up from the helicopter or the drone and you look down, people are separated a little bit more. Now, they may be throwing the football, which I think is a little risky, but it depends how many people are in your group, I guess.
The making it rain clip, though, it seemed like they may not have been social distancing.
Yeah, but if you have to choose social distance versus getting paid by a stranger,
That's true.
I'm going to choose getting paid by a stranger.
Yeah, you got to make that money. All right, here's another cheery video.
A lot of boats. That's a cool shot, though.
That's a cool shot.
That used to be us. You probably would have been in the middle of that. That's Charleston. Let's see what it looks like when the battery, I think there's a battery shot coming up there. It's just hard to say, like, is that social distancing or not? You know, if
I think it probably is.
if you're 6 feet away from people or you're a few feet closer, but you're breathing out into the wind, you're outside. Do we have any kind of studies? Have you seen any study that says how easily people are able to catch it outside?
Very rarely, I think. I think they said. I mean, I watched one video. I think maybe I put it in the folder today, but they were saying that you still have to watch out for surfaces, but outside it cannot survive on surfaces because of the UV light from the sun. So you would have to be speaking like into someone's mouth outside, which is very different than inside where it's all just blowing around and we're all breathing everyone's air. Now, I saw this on the news somewhere else, and you have it in the title here, that boat parade was a MAGA boat parade.
Make America Great Again boat parade.
Yeah.
A lot of people have boats that are going out just to, I mean, I would find many more reasons to make a boat parade, then make America great. Come on.
Yeah,
It's like the opening of America. It's Memorial Day. Like, why did it have to be that?
I know. It seems strange, and I mean, I understand there's Trump fans everywhere, and maybe there's a little more in Charleston than there are in Puerto Rico, but I don't know. I'm just surprised that they were able to get this. You know, it could have been like done with quarantine parade or Memorial Day parade, but
Right.
I wonder who put a MAGA boat parade together and got that many people to show up. That's pretty wild.
Or today's political environment, could it just have been a regatta in Charleston and then somebody ran with the whole MAGA parade? And
I
it
have
actually is not.
never seen boats do like that in Charleston. I've seen the whole harbor full, but
Yeah.
the boats are not all going together in the same direction, so it was some sort of planned
Seems
thing.
like it, but cool footage though.
Yeah. And probably illegal footage with the drone.
Yeah.
It's right next to the helicopter pad right there. All right, here's a Staten Islander shamed for no mask. Real quick, did you by chance turn up the speaker?
No, I didn't touch the speaker.
It seems like the speaker's a little louder and it's forcing me to keep the volume lower. I would imagine people at home are probably having a hard time hearing some of this. I'm going to turn it down just
I don't know.
a
I
little
mean,
bit.
you could also see the VLC player goes past 100.
I know, but it's at 100 right now, which is confusing me.
So if you're watching at home live, this would be a time to drink.
Get out.
Yeah, grown ass woman that acts like a dirty ass kid. Fucking dirty ass hoe. What do you think? Fucking tree.
I like the girl on the electric scooter at the end. She has to come up and be like, "Get out of here."
Did somebody get called a dirty ass hoe?
I think that might have been said.
I need to watch this one more
I
time.
feel like this is going to be you. The more I talk to you, you're just like, "Oh, I don't need any protection. I'm just going to go out and do my own thing." And you're going to show up somewhere without the mask.
Uh-huh.
And the mob is going to come after you.
They're going to call me a dirty ass hoe?
Maybe.
Let me watch. Damn it, VLC.
Get out.
Yeah, grown ass woman that acts like a dirty ass kid. Fucking dirty ass hoe. What do you think? Fucking tree.
Somebody was like, "You're acting like a dirty ass kid," and then the girl was like, "Dirty ass hoe."
You got them.
Um,
Is this what the world's going to come to, though? Especially, I imagine it's only going to get worse. People are going to act worse. Maybe people act better. Maybe they'll get used to it, and this is the highest alert, and this is the moment everyone's going to be outraged. But people are also, as we go through this, people are going to stop wearing masks less and less every week.
Absolutely.
Unless it comes back.
My mom says she doesn't wear a mask. She said she's never worn a mask at a grocery store.
What if your mom's on one of these videos?
What if my mom's a dirty ass hoe?
I mean, that's a whole other topic of discussion. But if we start playing video captured of your mom on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or whatever all these social media sites are, it's going to be embarrassing for you. It's have to be like that.
I mean, it's interesting to me. First of all, if there's a rule that you should wear a mask to come into someone's private business, then I think you should respect that.
In many cases, they're going to have somebody at the door making. I mean, you've seen these Costco videos where they're not letting you in.
Sure.
Or they're. Today, I had to go to the pharmacy several times today. They took my temperature and everything there. They locked the door. There's a guy who's letting you in and out. And so it would be pretty hard to get in there without the mask unless you had the mask on and then you took it off to be a rebel. We know a lot of people that want to be rebels. They kind of enjoy that mentality.
Yeah, they always want to get in the fight so they can write about it on social media or whatever. Yeah, I think you should respect that, but there's also, Anthony says, nobody in the South is wearing a mask. Yeah, so, I mean, my parents are in Florida. They don't wear masks. My parents said the majority of people do not wear masks.
But I'm shocked that, like, Kroger or Publix, these big grocery stores, wouldn't have that rule in place. Like, why would they not? Are people going to be like, I'm not going to shop at your grocery store because you're making me wear a mask? I don't think people would take that route.
I don't know. I'm sure some people would, especially in the South.
Really?
Sure. If you have the option of going to a grocery store that forces you to wear a mask or one right down the road that doesn't, and you believe this is a hoax.
I don't know. If Whole Foods and Publix, they all said you have to wear a mask, you can't come in.
If they all said it, then you're right. But I'm saying if there was
But I'm saying those are big ones. Those are ones that would have that policy. If you have the smaller little grocery stores, maybe they don't have a policy, but are you going to go away from the main?
My parents go to main grocery stores, and they don't have mask rules.
Well,
I don't know. My point is that it's scary to me if, let's just say, for argument's sake, I doubt this is the case, but let's just say for argument's sake that grocery store didn't have a mask policy.
Yeah.
And just a mob of scared people started calling that poor, wholesome woman a dirty-ass hoe. Mm-hmm. When in reality, she's probably a virgin. She's probably clean of the virus.
Is mother of one.
Yeah. Like a pet, not a human without the intercourse. But
Right.
Yeah. And so people who are scared are attacking this poor, wholesome, holy woman. That's when I have a problem with it. I'm like, everybody's just freaking out for no reason. If you're afraid of her, then just stay away from her. It's not a big deal.
Meanwhile,
There's a 1 in a million chance.
the guy in Daytona who's making it rain isn't called a dirty ass hoe.
Exactly. That's my point. But if they had a rule and she was like, no, screw you, MAGA for life, this is a hoax, she's a dirty ass hoe.
Okay.
Did we get to the bottom of that?
I think so.
All right.
Well, I think a lot of the issue with this comes down to how many people are they letting into these grocery stores, and how many people could go in there and like, what's going to be the policy? And so we're seeing this next video discrepancies on what the city is saying is the law, and I don't know how much legal right they have. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But the cities are making up these rules on the percentage of people that should be in these establishments. But as we're going to see, who's going to hold that up? Are police going to go there and force them to take a head count and say, hey, Kroger, you have 300 people in here and you're only supposed to have 200?
Let's find out.
You got it?
Reopening Texas now underway, and many Houstonians are taking advantage of restaurants, bars, and clubs that are starting to reopen.
Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner, though, saying too many people are taking advantage and that businesses are not operating at 25% capacity. So now he says the Houston Fire Marshal will enforce the governor's regulations.
Channel 2's Hannah McKenzie joins us live from Montrose with more on his statement today. Hannah?
Per Governor Greg Abbott's orders, bars like this one should be operating at 25% of their capacity. Present company here on Westheimer, though, looking pretty packed today. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner announcing starting tonight, the fire marshal's office will begin enforcing the governor's order. The change in gears coming after the mayor said he'd seen photos and videos of large crowds of people gathering at bars and clubs, ignoring the 25% capacity mandate.
It's a situation based on some of the pictures that I've seen that it is clear that people are crowded in, almost look like to maximum capacity, on top of one another, no social distancing, no mask. Then you're forcing us to step in for public health reasons to say no.
Houston Fire Chief Samuel Pena also addressing the issue today on Twitter. He said since May 22nd...
Pause right there. Okay, you're outside. We've said that's probably a good idea. But when you start having the wind blowing with mist, is there any chance that is that making it better or making it worse?
I have a little bit of inside information
on that.
We've
had these talks about humidity.
Universal Studios is opening on June 5th in Orlando. And they are removing all misters because they are afraid that it could take the virus to like people in the line, I guess.
But early on, we heard that humidity might help because it's something to block the virus and then pull it down, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't hang in the air as long.
They need the fans like tilted from above down, like forcing everything to the ground.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it could hit the ground and then bounce back up.
Fire Marshal's office has addressed more than 300 complaints of order violations. Now, we did reach out to the Fire Marshal's office to find out how they are going to go about enforcing the order. We're yet to hear back from them. I did go inside here at Present Company and spoke with a manager, and according to her, they are operating at 25% capacity.
That's the interesting thing about rules like that, is that you can cram a lot of people into different venues, especially venues that have outdoor seating like that, you know? So there's probably games to be played with that. Or we're at 25% capacity because nobody wants to eat out inside because it's nice outside.
Yeah.
So our deck is at 100% capacity, but inside's at 0% capacity. You know?
I think this is going to be something we're all going to be faced with as we go out, you know?
Yeah.
And my thought is the police and the fire department and the mayors are just not going to do anything. I don't see the police going in there and issuing fines and telling people to leave. They're probably just going to tell the door guy, hey, like, and the manager, you guys have to like form a line. I think you have too many people in there. You're not going to let any more people in, and you need to like just watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to know. They're not going to go in there and give out fines.
Well, Anthony here says, unless the state legislature passes a law, it's not a law. Anything else is simply government overreach.
Do you think they are going to start passing laws? I mean, they will only pass laws if it gets worse. If we get through this and it's not going to be that bad and like we're kind of done with coronavirus in the next couple months, then I don't think it'll be a big deal. But if we have a second wave and all of a sudden the numbers start skyrocketing again, all of these townships and these cities and states are going to go back and start making law. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if things get worse.
And maybe a lot of people that say this is the wrong thing to do, if their town was hit by this hard this next few months, they're going to back out a little bit and say, you know what? Okay, like, I was wrong. I have family members that now have died of the virus, and I used to say it was a hoax, and I used to say it wasn't a big deal, and you're taking our freedoms. I get it now, and that's going to be the moment that these new laws come into place. It's probably not right now, but we'll have to wait and see.
I have seen one of my crazy conspiracy theory friends posting today that...
key word in that is friends. You're still...
I mean,
you share a lot
we're
in common.
Facebook friends. But he was saying that the second wave is coming. Well, first of all, either coronavirus is 100% fake and it's just flu, or it was made by the government so that they could control us better.
Could it have been made by the government, but they failed and made just something like the flu? That would be his perfect. That would
like they wanted it to be really
Well, I'm just
deadly.
saying that would take these two ideas, that it's just the flu or it's this biological weapon, and it would be able to merge them together. It's
well,
like they failed.
There's another piece to this retarded puzzle. And so he was saying that right now people aren't really afraid for their children and everything. But look, you know, we've already lost all of our freedoms and stuff, and the government now has control of everything, businesses and travel and everything. So what the government's going to do now, they're going to open the gates. They, you know, during this time have been setting up 5G towers. They've even been setting up 5G towers in our children's schools. They are then going to turn on the death rays, and like maybe right now the death rays out of the 5G towers are at like a low percentage or a low power level, but they're going to crank up the death ray in the 5G, and we're going to see a spike in deaths. And then when we see that spike, even the people who were on the fence about how dangerous this were, now they will believe too, and now the government can come in and take total control of all the people in the world.
And why is the government not going to die when the same 5G signals that are killing all of us aren't killing them? They have the antidote? Are they protected in some way? It's kind of like the chemtrails. How are the chemtrails killing all of us when they're flying over the same cities that the uber rich are living in?
Yeah, I don't know that he's fully thought that one through. But
well, you'll have to get back to him when you guys trade.
I'll look into that one.
Ideological talks next.
Yeah, I'll look into that one. I'll try to get back to you guys on that. Next video.
The title of this does not look good.
No, it doesn't.
Let's go to Missouri now, where more than 100 people were exposed to the coronavirus while getting their hair cut. 2 hairdressers at a Great Clips in Springfield have tested positive. Officials there say one of the stylists worked for 8 days while showing symptoms. The other stylist worked for 5 days while experiencing, quote, very mild symptoms. Missouri hair salons were allowed to reopen on May 4th as part of Republican Governor Mike Parson's Show Me Strong recovery plan. And many of them remain open as the state has more than 12,000 cases and nearly 700 fatalities.
So when I first started watching this, I was like, damn, like this girl had symptoms for 8 days and just kept cutting people's hair? That's insane. But then it started showing B-roll, and I was like, oh, they're wearing masks, and the customers are wearing masks, and they're wearing gloves.
Yeah.
So, okay, you have symptoms, but it'd be kind of similar to being on an airplane where somebody has symptoms, but you're all in masks. Like,
but what are symptoms? I mean, many symptoms are just like normal cold, flu symptoms anyway. So.
Yeah, you know, maybe a cough. Like,
and if it's mild, maybe you think like, oh, I feel a little under the weather, but I don't think I have the coronavirus. I'm not dying.
Yeah, but wearing the mask, your customers wearing the mask, like, that's not as egregious, right? Continue.
Joining me now is Nikki Ogle, who's a reporter for our NBC Springfield affiliate, KYTV. I want to read what a spokesperson for the salon said in a statement. Quote, both stylists are following medical advice and taking appropriate actions, and the local health department notified individuals who came in close contact with those stylists. The franchise owners have closed the salon to undergo additional sanitizing and deep cleaning, consistent with guidance from health officials. I know you have been talking to customers. What are they telling you?
So far, seems pretty good. They shut down. They realized it was bad.
What's about to happen?
I mean, it's not that. What you can imagine will happen.
Yeah, the customer I spoke with went to the Great Clips on May 17th. About a week later, the local health department told him he had come in contact with someone who had the coronavirus. Eric Chase, that customer, said while he was there, all customers were wearing masks, but he did see some stylists who were not.
So they weren't following guidelines.
I don't know. But that backfired real quick. I was like, yeah, they're pretty safe with the mask and stuff. Oh, they weren't wearing the mask.
Well, the other thing is, I think I saw this story yesterday in a headline, and I looked into it briefly, and it's just that 140 people were exposed. 140 people were customers.
Yeah.
Maybe nobody got it.
Absolutely.
If nobody got it, wouldn't that be great news? That somebody had it and had a mask, and she's cutting hair with somebody else who has a mask,
close,
and they didn't get it at all. Like that would be pretty good news.
Yeah, that would show that wearing the mask is great.
Can we also talk about, is it the governor or the mayor has Show Me Strong Recovery is the name of the program? It's like Ritz Cameras.
Big Print You?
Big Print You. It's like Show Me Strong Recovery Program. Yeah, you didn't hear that? It was like before you did your first pause.
No.
They said this is part of Show Me Strong Recovery. I was thinking that sounds...
Show Me Strong... SSR? Like...
I mean, that would...
Who comes up with this stuff? All right. Trump wraps up hydroxychloroquine.
I think the regimen finishes in a day or two. Yeah, I think it's 2 days. Okay. 2 days.
Thank you, sir. So, what does this even mean? The regiment ends in 2 days. I just need to read more about what hydroxychloroquine does to people who take it prophylactically. Is that the right word?
That sounded smart.
Can you take it if you're about to go on a trip where malaria is, and then you just stop taking it and it's like residually sitting in your blood for some amount of time? Or does it make absolutely no sense to say, I've finished my treatment, but maybe I'll get coronavirus in 2 weeks? Like, it seems like you would take it so that you don't get it. It just feels like a weird policy to say, yeah, I've been taking it for 14 days, and it's about to be over with, and I'm just going to go on with my life. Like, doesn't that seem like a wasted...
Well, I would imagine when you take it for, what was it for, malaria?
Yeah.
Ahead of a trip, there is probably a period of time that you take it and you're over with it. So maybe he's just following malaria guidelines.
Well, I just heard a lot of people in our Zoom chats that we've had after this show, if you guys want to join those, somebody was saying, oh, I've taken it. We had a couple people. One person said, I took it before a trip to a country that had a lot of malaria, and I felt really sick, and I decided not to continue. So he did have a bad experience. But then somebody else said, oh, I took it. And then my thought is just, you continue to take it while you're there, and then you leave your mission trip or vacation or whatever it is, and you come back, and then you stop taking it. But maybe, I mean, can you take it for 2 weeks and then be good for a couple months? Is that how it would work? Doesn't it just seem weird for the president to be like, I'm taking it, yeah, it's fine, it's great, I'm on it. And then just say like, oh, I'm about to wrap up my treatment. Unless he had it. If he had coronavirus and they caught it early, and he's one of these guys where I'm going to have it early, plus have the zinc, and he's not telling us the other half of it.
But he showed up every day live on TV. He's never been sick at all. I just don't believe that.
Well, there's a lot of conspiracy theories going on that say that, and there's news stories about it. I almost put one in tonight's episode, but a month ago, Trump came out and said, we bought 29 million doses of hydroxychloroquine from India, but people are starting to take that even further and saying he bought that drug from India and India's prime minister or whoever runs the country, and that his son-in-law, Kushner, is part of that process, and that the Trump family has invested interest in those drugs that they bought. Because apparently the United States does have 29 million pills of hydroxychloroquine. Now, I don't know how many we normally have for people that need it for malaria and lupus. Maybe we always have 10 million, and so 29 million is not that great. Maybe we're going through it with all these studies, and we needed the drug to do the studies where we are at now. But a lot of people are just trying to mold this narrative and say he's invested in it. One of the comments I read was that Trump's horrible with language. He's as bad as I am.
Maybe worse.
Maybe worse, but he sure gets that word right. Hydroxychloroquine. And people were like, he says it so perfectly so that everyone in the public now knows what that word is. And they're like, it's because he's got an investment in it, and if it doesn't get bought up as the cure, then he's lost his investment. I would have to read more into this whole, how did the United States purchase 29 million pills from India? But it's all in the Indian news agencies, and we have video clips from CNN of him saying this a month ago, but drawing that next line to say that he's going to profit from a drug that also has generics out, and I don't think hydroxychloroquine is like a designer expensive drug. It just feels strange that that would be the solution, where he could invest in Moderna and have a much bigger return if that was to pop. I mean, all those CEOs that sold the stock last week, they made a ton of money.
Well, Touche Films, you don't need to be super chatting us. Touche Films has been here for every show. He's a moderator. He's keeping people in line. Every day he's doing the Zoom after party for all the photographers and videographers. He just did a $20 super chat. We owe Touche Films this money back for sure. Chile, where he currently lives, has 3,500 new cases a day here for 8 days. My family might be forced to return to the U.S. They can go to lower 48, looking for realistic suggestions on the eastern seaboard that are managing this well. Chat thoughts. I mean,
I would say
isn't he from Charleston? Why wouldn't you just go back to where you're from?
Maybe he feels like they are not managing it well. I feel like Puerto Rico's managing it pretty
well.
well.
If you want to be in the safest place, come to Puerto Rico. Come to Palmas del Mar.
Are we technically part of the 40? I mean, we're not a state.
No.
So we can't be part of the lower 48. Do you ever use that expression?
What?
The lower 48?
I don't even really know what lower means.
Yeah, you won it. You won it. I grew up in Alaska, and that's what we all call it, the lower 48. Because
anything but Alaska?
And Hawaii. Hawaii's not the lower 48. Hawaii's an island.
Yeah.
So the lower 48 is the continental United States.
Okay, but then he asked for stuff on the East Coast, so that's not 48. That's like 10.
Well.
Phil says WHO pauses hydroxy study due to safety concerns.
I did see that. That was a big news story today.
Interesting. From what I've heard from the doctors who say it is working, they say that they don't think that it works once you're on your deathbed. It works the second you show signs with zinc. If we already give this drug to people without any ailment at all for potentially catching malaria weeks from now, it seems like it should be safe to take right when you get this, or maybe even like Trump's doing.
I saw some economic advisor to Trump on the news today or yesterday, and man, this guy had a smile on his face, and he's talking about all these negative things, and I was just like, dude, you got to tone down the smile. You know, he seemed super happy. But he just said, she pressed him and said, are you taking hydroxychloroquine? And he said, well, I'm not really privy to say, I don't want to announce what I'm doing in my personal life. And he was trying to dodge the question, you know. But he basically came out and said, I asked about it, and the doctor said that I had I had a few things in my medical history that would suggest that I shouldn't take it. Okay. And I would imagine that's true with people who travel with malaria, into places with malaria, as they might say, look, this drug's fine for most people, but like we saw in the Zoom chat, some people might have complications. Some people might be in a high risk already.
Yeah.
So you have to take all of that into consideration, but you also can't ignore the study that came out. It's like 90,000 people, but then it was 15,000 people were given the drug in 4 different categories. Remember that came out a few days ago? That is showing that if you're hospitalized, which is already a severe case of it, people that were hospitalized that were put on that drug plus other combinations, they died at a higher rate than people
like 30% higher or something like that.
Right. So maybe hydroxychloroquine is more dangerous for people who are more sick. But there's been a lot of studies coming out that say if you're on it early, I don't know if there's been any preventative studies where people have been on it. I mean, I think there are some. I don't know if it's like peer reviewed yet or it's scientific. Yeah. But countries that have malaria apparently are showing less cases of coronavirus deaths. But maybe that's the testing. There's all these other layers that it could be. But one place to look would be, are people that are taking hydroxychloroquine normally for malaria, is that population of people dying less of COVID? And that would at least be something to investigate. And I think that is true. I think like places in India, I mean, we would expect India to be one of the hardest hit places in the world. But India hasn't taken off the way we would suspect for some reason. But I don't know if everyone in India has taken hydroxychloroquine. Maybe the locals, it's kind of like Zika. Remember when Zika was out? There were studies that said if you got Zika within a year, you were kind of like immune to it. But if you were an outsider, or if you had pre-existing conditions, you had like bad dietary stuff, or were on drugs and you had a weak immune system, then Zika was causing all these birth defects. But if you were just a white Westerner who's vacationing in a Zika place, like Puerto Rico, I mean, we had a big outbreak here a couple years ago. There was really no prevalence of issues with Zika from people who were healthy.
Right.
Or were natives that had already been exposed to it.
Well, we got one more Trump HCQ video.
Many people are taking the government guidance on the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine to basically ward them off of using it and trying it. On the other hand, there are current experiments going on by National Institutes of Health and academic institutions, including for preventive uses possibly. You're finishing your 2-week course of hydroxychloroquine, correct?
Just finished, yeah.
Okay.
By the way, I'm still here.
Yes,
to the best of my knowledge, here I am.
But is that mixed messages when even scientists say they feel that the government is telling them, or telling people at least, to be very careful and not use this, while the President of the United States is using it and while researchers are studying it actively?
Well, I've heard tremendous reports about it. Frankly, I've heard tremendous reports. Many people think it saved their lives. Doctors come out with reports. You had a study in France, you had a study in Italy that were incredible studies. Look, if somebody else were promoting it, other than me, call it a promotion, because I want people to get better. I don't get anything, I don't gain anything, other than if it's something that helps, that's a good thing. That's what I want, that's all I want.
I mean,
so again, he's confirming.
That seemed like a somewhat reasonable answer for Trump. Usually he'd be like, excuse me, excuse me.
Well,
I shut down the planes from China, okay? The whole world didn't know what to do. I shut down the planes. And then she's like, I'm talking about hydroxychloroquine. Excuse me.
She has an interesting name. Is it Cheryl? Sharyl?
Looks like Cheryl to me.
Cheryl. I don't think I've ever seen it spelled that way. But, you know, anytime he gets these one-on-one interviews like this, it's always with somebody who's not going to press him hard, right? It's always somebody that he feels safe with.
Yeah.
And they're able to ask these questions because he knows that
I appreciate that, though. I mean, you know, you do want a fair reporter that's going to ask tough questions, but not write crap headlines and gotcha statements and all this stuff, you know, just try to get you to say something so they get that headline. So I feel like even though she was nice about it, she asked a very good question, and that's the most clear answer I've heard Trump give about this ever, and it's the most clear answer I've heard Trump give on anything in the last couple weeks. Here's a video about Trump golfing. I wasn't going to play this. All the headlines the last couple of days is like, as the American death toll rises to 100,000, Trump decides to play golf. I'm like, this is crap. Like, I'm not going to play this. This is stupid. But I watched this one clip, and while Trump was golfing, you remember when Trump wasn't president, he was always talking trash on Twitter about Obama playing too much golf and it wasting too much money and everything. While Trump was playing golf yesterday, he was tweeting about Obama playing too much golf.
No.
Like, can you even fathom, like, why would he do that? So
they have footage of him doing this, or they just know that's what was happening?
Yeah, they have pictures of him on the golf course.
Meantime, the president defending his decision to golf, tweeting it was the first time he had played in almost 3 months. The president further took the opportunity to attack former President Obama and former Vice President Biden for frequently vacationing and relaxing while in office, even renewing his attack on Obama for, quote, always playing golf, a line of attack then candidate Trump often made against his predecessor.
It was reported today, played 250 rounds of golf.
Everything's executive order because he doesn't have enough time because he's playing so much golf.
I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf.
Trump even criticized Obama for golfing at the height of the Ebola response in 2014. That public health crisis saw 4 diagnosed cases in the United States.
4 cases.
I think I was in Dallas when one of those happened.
And everyone's like, oh my God, 4. So I just, gosh, he digs his own grave every day. All he has to do is...
Is it a grave, though, if you don't actually ever have to lie down in it? It seems like he just gets away with all of this stuff.
I don't know. I mean, to me, I try to be fair to Trump. And I think the majority of people who've watched this show for the last 2 months, I've stuck up for Trump when I feel like the media is being unfair, and when Trump's being ridiculous, I try to call it out. And I felt like when Trump for years mocked Obama for doing things, and then Trump became president and did those exact same things, you would think at the very least
he would stay away from that.
He'd be like, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Or if he was a good leader, he'd go, you know what? I was harsh on Obama. I now realize, you know, how stressful this job can be and how much work that you can still get done on the golf course. And so I'm sorry that I was ever hard on him about this, but this is like my one release that I have while I'm working on this pandemic. And as a whole country, we could just go like, oh, okay, thank you, we understand. But instead, he literally goes on Twitter and starts still complaining about Obama playing golf. It's so weird.
What I don't understand, and I'm not a golfer, but I don't understand how, first of all, being the president seems like it would be the most stressful job ever. I always try to think of any president going to sleep at night and what's going through their head and how are they dealing with their relationship and how, like, knowing they got to wake up and address all these complicated things. It just seems like the most stressful job ever. But to me, golf does not seem fun to me. Being out in the heat, the sun's hitting you, you're trying to play a competitive game that requires some athleticism. I know it's not like basketball or something. It's not like a, you know, you're not running and you know, doing that sort of thing. But, you know, I don't see how you could possibly be playing golf in that environment and talking business and getting things done better than you could be in an office.
No, it's not better. No, it's not better. But, you know, I mean, what chance as president do you have to even go outside, get some sun? You know, you're just inside all day signing papers and listening to people scream at you. So I could see wanting to go out and just be on a golf course, quiet. The Secret Service can, like, be away from you, you know, in eyesight, but not right next to you. So,
why don't you go to the last video? Because I think this is an important video that we've mentioned before, but there's more studies being done on this.
A group of Northwestern researchers have recently found a strong correlation between vitamin D deficiency and COVID-19 mortality rates. According to this study, patients from countries with a high number of COVID-19 deaths had lower levels of vitamin D compared to those from countries that were not affected as severely. What does all this mean? Here to discuss, Dr. John Campbell. He's an academic and nurse lecturer.
Can I just say before we hear from the doctor, and maybe he's about to answer this, but does
those
vitamin
trees
D...
are beautiful back there?
Yeah, looks great.
Is that like Mario paint?
Does vitamin D just come from sunlight, or are you getting it in food also?
You can get it in food, and you can take supplements.
So what countries suffer from lower vitamin D?
Well, they're saying a lot of the countries that were hit hard, they're saying Italy suffers from it.
Why would Italy suffer from it?
One reason is Italy's population's older, like I always like to tout, and they don't go outside as much. But the biggest one, I don't know if they talk about this in this video. I recorded this early this morning, so I can't remember everything I've read. But a lot of countries, like Scandinavian countries, they put vitamin D in their food. It's like a supplement. You know how we put like fluoride in our water?
Mm-hmm.
So tooth decay should be lower in populations that have fluoride in their water. They do that. They enrich a lot of their foods with vitamin D, and they may also take more supplements.
Who does this?
Scandinavian countries.
Oh.
I believe we do it too. Like some countries might look at it and be like, oh, you're putting all that stuff in your food and it's bad. But in a case like this, maybe having extra vitamin D in your food is better.
Because I think, you know, every day we're talking about how poor people are the ones being hit hardest from this. But it seems like for the most part, poor people spend a lot more time outside than wealthier people. Wealthier people with a nice air-conditioned house just stay inside all day.
Yeah.
It's the poor people with the crappier house without AC that live in the smaller parts of town, you know, where they're intermingling with more people. Like, that makes sense to me. But, you know, you hear about Brazil getting hit hard and stuff, and you watch all the footage, and everybody's hanging out outside on the streets.
I don't think you can look at it like just because, I mean, we think vitamin D might have an integral part of staying alive and being healthy, but you can't just say like, oh, because you get a lot of sunlight, you're good.
Okay.
If you were in poverty and you're eating horribly and you're malnourished, you may have all these other underlying conditions that might trump the increase of vitamin D that you have, you know? So it's like a well-oiled machine, I would imagine.
Yeah, like this.
Just like that.
Okay.
For 40 years, also founder of Campbell Teaching. Doctor, I only have about 4 minutes with you, but I want to get as much information as I can. We know the sun produces vitamin D for you. We know we have supplements out there to get vitamin D in your system. Which one is better? Are they the same? Is it better to get the sun? Is it better to get the supplements? Your advice.
Let me just start off with a simple fact. 42% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. In Hispanics, that rises to 70%, and in African Americans, that rises to 82%. So there's basically an epidemic of vitamin D.
I don't want to tout false science here, and there's some intricacies that I am probably going to overlook. But
5G?
No, I've just, there's been studies at least like 10 or 15, 20 years ago that said African Americans, people with darker skin, have a harder time absorbing light and making vitamin C. Vitamin D. Now, maybe those studies have been revised, and this is where I'm trying to be open about this, is maybe they have no problem absorbing and creating vitamin D, but maybe something in their bodies doesn't allow that to be spread and broken down. Like, there's something that's going on with darker skinned people in the absorption, creation, and distribution of vitamin D.
Okay.
At least that's some of the theories. So maybe that is another reason why people in near the equator that have darker skin maybe actually lack more vitamin D than people higher up could be something there. I mean, I don't know. It's just speculation, but
efficiency in the United States. And this is so important because it's a vital immunological molecule. The immune system can't work properly without vitamin D. It's what we call a modulator. So if someone's deficient in vitamin D, not only will the immune system not work properly, it can work too much in the wrong way. And that's what can cause these severe reactions in COVID-19 called the cytokine storm, which causes acute respiratory distress syndrome and death. And it's been estimated by this United Nations studies, looking at correlations around the world, that if everyone in the world had enough vitamin D, this could potentially reduce the case fatality rate by 50%.
Okay, so that is a pretty...
Yeah, that's wild. Now I want to go check my vitamin D levels.
Vitamin, that's what we should say. Well, there's a few other things I've been reading about with this, and people are suggesting that maybe this is why these viruses are worse in the winter, is because the sun doesn't go as high in the sky and the days are shorter. So, and it's cold and people try to stay indoors more. So like maybe we have more deficiencies in vitamin D in the winter. Some people were speculating maybe this is why New York was hit so hard. It's because New York is covered in buildings. It is really hard to get sunlight in New York City. And what they were also saying with some of these research papers was that your body only naturally creates vitamin D when the sun is way up in the sky. That's producing the most amount of UV radiation, which then your body can absorb and change, into vitamin D. So they were saying there was a rule, I can't remember where I read this, but it basically said if your shadow is like longer than the length of your height, then you are not absorbing vitamin D at all in those periods. So the time to get vitamin D is the time that it's most likely to get sunburned. It's
that I don't want to go outside.
It's like 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so if you're out in the middle of the day, you are producing vitamin D.
Does sunscreen block the vitamin D?
I don't know. You would think maybe it could. I mean, is it melatonin? Melanin? That's what darker skin people have more of, and I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why they don't absorb and make vitamin D as much. Vitamin D.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, there's all these elements of it, but vitamin D is stored in fat. So maybe it's one of those that you can overdose with. You can have too much vitamin D. But if you're getting it naturally through your food or a supplement every now and then, you should have enough in your body.
I'm definitely deficient on vitamin D.
Really? I feel like you're outside all the time, riding your bike.
Okay, yeah. If I can get it from that, I'm good. But food-wise,
I try to go out. Like I'm in the pool every now and then, and I feel like I'm getting burned, or I haven't been outside in a while, and I just try to lay out for 10 or 20 minutes. I don't know how much time you're supposed to have, and there's a lot that I don't know about vitamin D, obviously. But it's interesting just to think that maybe people in Italy are avoiding the sun, and they're not getting it through their food, and they're not taking the supplements. That guy said that 20% of Americans, 25% of Americans were already deficient in vitamin D.
It was like 50%, 60-some% of Mexicans, and then 80-some% of black people. It's crazy.
Latinos. He didn't say Mexicans, Lee.
Sorry. All right, here's a video from China.
This morning in Wuhan, the world's widest search for the coronavirus. Officials attempting to test everyone, all 11 million people in every neighborhood. The Chinese city hardest hit by the virus that remains at the center of allegations that the virus causing COVID-19 didn't come from a market here, but a lab known to be doing coronavirus research. And for the first time, the director of the Wuhan Institute of Virology told state media that the lab has 3 live strains of bat coronavirus on site, but that none of them match the one sweeping dozens of countries. This is pure fabrication, she says, of claims the virus somehow got out of the lab, adding, quote, like everyone else, we didn't even know the virus existed. How could it have leaked from our lab when we never had it?
And a leading researcher, known here as Batwoman, also appeared today on state TV, saying it's regrettable that science and politics are being mixed together when cooperation is needed.
For months, theories have swirled about where and how the pandemic started, ramping up a U.S.-China blame game. Even President Trump and Secretary of State Pompeo pointing to the Wuhan lab.
They unleashed a virus on the world that's destroyed trillions of dollars in American economic wealth.
4 months after the lockdown of Wuhan, much of the city and the rest of China are showing signs of a return to normal, with new facts of life, like thermal imaging at office buildings, disinfecting at factories, and
You get the idea here.
Yeah.
One thing that I was hoping was in this clip, but is not, and it was like the name of the clip on YouTube, was something about China warns of a new Cold War.
Yeah.
And they didn't touch on that in this clip, which was frustrating.
Last night, go to the folder. I don't know where we have everything queued up here. I don't know what the next video is. Actually, the next video is a great one. So Fareed Zakaria, he does a show on CNN every now and then. He's not on there a lot, but he had one on, I think, last night. And it was something called China's Deadly Secret. And it was an hour-long special that was really well done. And I don't know if it's propaganda, but the way this was sold, it goes back to what I've been saying since like week one, that like we are going to go to war with somebody to get ourselves out of this recession, depression. But it's not just us. It's looking like it might be a lot of other westernized, it might be the rest of the world. And he's going through in this documentary, this special. I wish it was online. You can't really find it. It's like they air these things, then you can never go back and watch them. But it was crazy, the stuff he was going through. He was saying that we do these military games with China, and in many cases, China is beating the United States in these games. Our military is larger, but we aren't more technologically advanced anymore. That China has more technology than we do. And then they start going through the contact tracing and how China is going to try to pull itself out of this situation. And when you see the way they can monitor everyone with the apps, and you've seen the identification, they can follow people and they know who every person is.
Facial recognition.
I'm like, they are ahead of the United States. Like maybe our government, our military has something like that, but it's years, maybe a decade away from being implemented. And so
well, it's also like unconstitutional. Americans do not want face tracking in every city and every store.
But you know, you listen to these guys. Is it Tim Harris? What's Harris?
Sam Harris?
Sam Harris. You listen to these conversations with people like Sam Harris who talk about how AI will be like a weapon, and eventually AI will become so powerful that whoever gets that first will have such a heads up on everyone else that we will have to go to war to stop that from turning over, you know? And you look at what China's doing in this documentary and you're like, man, China, I mean, they are ahead of us in many ways. It comes at a cost. Their pollution is horrible. Their human rights is horrible. None of the people in China actually own property. They don't have the same property rights. Like, there's all of these awful things that are happening in China, but they have grown incredibly quickly. And this whole document, it was just shown many ways, like where did the virus start from? Like, how is it progressing? How is everyone blaming China? What is China doing to make sure their cases stay really low, you know? It goes through this whole thing in an hour, and it was really, really interesting. But it feels like a Cold War was brought up many, many times on how they are now this superpower, and they want to be the leaders of the world, and now is their time to shine because everyone is out of work. We're all heading into a depression. China somehow seems, at least the way they're selling it, they seem to be coming out of this hurt a lot less than we are. They have less deaths. They're opening back up. You know, they definitely rely on us. They rely on us to buy all the stuff that they're producing. But I was just thinking, man, this is CNN, and they are broadcasting something that feels very much like starting to warn the American public that we are about to go into a serious, long, drawn-out Cold War. I don't think we can go to war with them. They have nuclear weapons.
Yeah, it would be no good.
But they're also doing all this stuff in the South China Sea. Have you seen this? Where they're building islands that are infringing on international waters. They have military bases everywhere. Like, there is no way, I don't believe, the United States could go to war with them in that area and win. Because they have built all these commands. It's like Dubai. You know how Dubai has all these crazy islands and stuff?
Yeah.
They've done that in the South China Sea, and then you look at what they're doing to Taiwan, what they're doing in Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong is a real big issue right now. And everyone's just freaking out a little bit that China is doing this huge power move. And who's going to be there to stop them or you know, reprimand them? So we'll have to see a year down the road what comes of this, but this could be the next big change in power, world power, you know, going forward.
Rio2 Cat, thank you so much. $50 super chat. Very kind of you. He says, thank you for the daily videos. I've watched every one of them. Dark skin, melanin. And sunscreen, hold on.
Block UV and prevents vitamin D production.
Lighter skin tone is compensation for lack of UV. Darker skin tone protects against cancer, sunburns, etc. Well, thank you for that super chat.
Somebody said, well, then dark-skinned people are more likely to be in the field working and they should have a higher survival rate. Maybe they do. Like, I don't know. I mean, if they're not making as much vitamin D naturally because they're blocking a lot of those rays, but they're in the sun more often, maybe there's a balancing point.
You're saying somebody who just gets tan from being in the sun a lot?
Or if you're dark skinned, if you're black, like you're just born that color, you have a harder time absorbing the right rays of light because...
Yes, but it sounded like you were saying that black people have a tendency to be outside, working outside, and that is racist.
I'm not trying to make it about race. I'm just saying, like, many dark-skinned people, I think statistically they are. And if you also look at the equator, they're darker skinned as you get closer to the equator. I mean, I don't know.
All right, let's watch this next video here. This video is ridiculous.
To get an idea of just how big Chinese New Year is in this country, think of it as Thanksgiving and Christmas combined.
It's also a time when the Communist Party holds important meetings and events.
In Wuhan, they held a banquet for thousands of people, all together, eating dinner in one place. It was a political pageant, and the local political leaders were determined not to disrupt the political calendar.
A potluck dinner for 40,000 people to get that dinner into the Guinness Book of World Records.
That's right.
So, I watched this clip right before we went live. Are they saying that this is what happened last year?
No, this is what happened this January, after they already knew. Now, did this happen in Wuhan? Because China's huge. If this happens in Beijing or something, and they felt like, oh, it's not a big deal, maybe that could be excusable. But if this happened in Wuhan, while this was going on, this is part of this documentary that I didn't see this part of it. Like, I tuned in 20 minutes after it started, so I didn't hear this until I saw this clip today, trying to find something that referenced the video I've been talking about.
With a virus racing through the city, local officials are trying to break a record for the largest ever potluck dinner,
which turned into a giant super spreader event and increased the epidemic enormously. Disaster.
During this time, early to mid-January, Wuhan hospitals are filling with COVID patients, yet city health authorities report no new cases for weeks.
Sort of shut it down at that
Shut it down. There is strong incentive to keep the information away from the public.
Yanzhang Huang is a global health expert who was in contact with the Chinese CDC during the crisis.
Evidence suggesting human-to-human transmission indeed occurring make the situation even worse.
I mean, I don't know why they're playing the dramatic music and everything during this. Are they suggesting that China knew about the virus, wanted to get this world record for biggest potluck dinner, knew that people were going to die, but had to get this Guinness World Record, and then because of that, because of the world record, that's the reason why it's spread across the world? Is that what they're suggesting? Because when we look at the numbers, China seems to have done better than the majority of countries in the world when it comes to keeping this under control.
But in this same documentary I watched last night, I mean, they're showing the brutality that the Chinese government took. I mean, they would find people that test positive, and they would go into these apartments. They have video footage of this, where the guys are all in the suits, you know? They look like Naomi Campbell in the airport. And they're like grabbing people and pulling them away from their families, and like, I don't know where they're taking them to. It's almost like they're taking them to a camp or something.
Yeah.
And they're pulling them out, and then they go through and show these huge football arenas. I mean, they're not football arenas, but big stadiums where they have made kind of like we do at the borders, like the caged rooms. They make these tiny little bedrooms, and they force everyone into these rooms inside these stadiums. It's like these little quarantines. I mean, it looks like cattle. And they're pulling all the people, and like they're doing things that America would never tolerate, right?
Sure.
And I think we've seen videos where they're welding doors shut. and they're putting blockades up on all the roads, and they were just doing extreme things to make it stop. So maybe their numbers could be right if you took that big of an extreme stance and you hit it that early. Meanwhile, we're going to water parks and we're throwing money out of our convertibles. You know, I think you're going to have a different outcome.
You might. Next video.
If you're still waiting for your unemployment benefits, thanks for staying with us. I'm Patrick Nolan. Yours might be among the 390,000 claims the state says it cannot process. Some are duplicates, others have mistakes, or they're lacking crucial information. Four in Your Corner's Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders is looking into solutions to one of the biggest holdups. It's something called ID verification. He's in Tallahassee to explain. Forrest?
If an unemployment claim needs ID verification, it requires applicants get in touch with one of the state's 6,000 call operators, which hasn't been easy for some.
All of our phone lines are busy, and we are unable to offer a callback option at this time.
That's the message Sarah Krause gets when she calls the Department of Economic Opportunity. Choked phone lines, keeping her from verifying her ID and getting her claim processed. You can't even leave a message with your information.
No, and you can't enter it in online, which I find strange.
She's been trying all week without luck, the effort leaving her frustrated, believing an ID check shouldn't be that hard.
Call this number and have somebody actually pick up the phone and say, hi, what's the issue? Yeah. That's it. It's like a 2-minute process.
I asked DEO's unemployment chief about the slowed ID checks this week. He apologized for the delay, acknowledging applicants' desire for something faster. John Satter saying that change is coming.
We're standing up, and it'll be in the next couple of days, a identity verification tool where people, it's 2020, people should be able to go online and verify their identity.
Satter was light on details, but says the tool is in testing stages and was created in partnership with the Department of Highway Safety. He expected it would be ready by next week.
And that hopefully will clear a relatively large backlog.
Until it...
How many did they say?
360,000, something like that.
Is that in the United States? Or
that was in Florida, I believe.
In Florida?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people that still haven't even gotten their unemployment.
It's so infuriating that these government things can't just do everything online easily.
Well, this is like one of my biggest arguments about why I am skeptical on the government being able to do all these social programs. I grew up in the military. I had to go to military hospitals. They were horrible. Nothing ever ran as planned. Like, you go to a private hospital and things got done. Like, it took me years before I got diagnosed with my Crohn's disease because the medical hospitals at the Army bases, like, they're used to seeing soldiers, and they had no idea how to diagnose something like this. And then I go to a children's hospital, and boom, they diagnosed me in like 2 trips up there, you know? And so it infuriates me when I have to pay taxes on property and stuff in Charleston. I have to do anything in Charleston when I live there. The website doesn't work. The people on the phone are rude. You can't get the phone call to go through. When you do get it to go through, it goes to a voicemail. They'll never get back to you. And I'm just thinking, if this was run by a company like Amazon, they would have something in place in a month that would work amazing. You would just do it. I mean, if you had crazy stuff where, like, you return something to Amazon and it goes missing in the mail, you could just, like, type something in. Someone will call you. They'll open up the account. I'm so sorry, it's been resolved.
I've even had that happen via text on Amazon's website. I'm like, this says it was delivered and I never got it. And they're like, one moment, your credit card has been refunded. I'm like, damn, within seconds, they're just on top of it.
But you look at the $1,200 stimulus that everybody got, most people got in the United States. I had so many friends and family that were like, I still haven't heard anything back. And then one person would be like, you got to go to this part of the IRS's website. And it worked for them. They put in some information and it says the check has been issued and it's coming. But then somebody else would go to the same website, type in the same information for themselves, and it would give them like a completely different answer. Or it would say, come back soon, this part of the site's down. It's just like, it never works.
I know.
And you're thinking, what has Florida been doing and many other states? What have they been doing this whole time to get something in place? Like, it's 2020. They should have had an unemployment system.
I know.
You know, and maybe I'm being unfair because this is bogging down the system, and it's just, but you know, it's not built to be elastic and to grow.
Sure.
But I feel
that's the genius of websites and servers.
Yeah.
Is that you don't have to hire thousands more people because you just have to keep your website rolling, but the websites don't work the majority of the time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I found out that, I guess I'd just quickly tell the story. I had to change my home from being a primary home to like a secondary home when I moved to Puerto Rico. And I went in there, I gave them all the forms, and it changes your tax. If it's not your primary home, you have to
you're
pay
literally
more.
trying to pay them more money.
Yeah, I had to pay them like 2 or 3 times more in property taxes. And I had everything done, and then I get my property bill this year, and it's for the old amount. And I'm like, they didn't do it. So then I call, and it takes forever to get through. I finally get through to somebody, and they're like, no, like, you never sent me the paperwork. I find the paperwork. Here it is. I have it. Thank goodness I had it documented. And, you know, and then it just takes forever for this to get updated. And then 3 months later, I get the new bill for the correct amount I'm supposed to pay. And then they just treat you like you're delinquent and you're behind, and you have to hurry up.
Yeah.
Hurry up and pay this. And I'm thinking, like, you guys are 1.5 years behind on this. It's your crappy system that made I should just be able to log into my account, do a couple checkbox. If I'm trying to get the cheaper rate, there should be a little bit more verification. But if I'm moving it to a second house,
yes,
a non-primary resident, it should just be a check mark, boom, here's your tax thing, pay it online.
I mean, with everybody owning a smartphone these days, if they said you have to go to this link on a smartphone, because smartphones have cameras, and when you sign this, you have to enable the camera, and it's going to take a picture of you. Because isn't that the whole fear? Is like they want you to sign the sheet of paper, and they want you to go there in person so to stop the fraud and stuff. Well, guess what? Now your phone just takes a snapshot or a video of you signing your name on there. That would be so much more secure than the way that we did it, where we had to go wait in line, you meet with somebody.
We had to go through like security. It's like in a courthouse.
So stupid.
You have to take everything out of your pockets, and then you get there, and they're like out to lunch, and you're like, no one's here to keep it open. Somebody here says, my state only has the website open during business hours. It's that sort of stuff that I just feel like there's no hope for our government. Like, it's bloated bureaucracy that will never run efficiently, and there's so much money wasted on this stuff. But hey, let's make the government bigger, and let's let's have everyone get a paycheck through these systems. And I'm like, look at all these people. I mean, 300-something thousand people in Florida haven't even gotten their unemployment when they were fired 2 months ago. How are they surviving? Like, that's...
You know,
it's gotta be so stressful.
I was thinking, I've been thinking about this for the last few days. For as bad as everything is, I haven't heard that many horror stories. I've heard no one on social media. Actually, that's not true. I've heard one. One business I read on social media was like, I'm sad to say that we have to close our doors. And it was some small gym with a bunch of personal trainers, you know?
Okay.
I didn't know who they were, but it was like a friend shared this girl's story. That is literally the only business I have heard shutting throughout this whole process. How is that possible? Is it just because everyone's getting free money from the government and so everything's on hold right now and nobody... Like, you would think you'd hear more people freaking out. You would think CNN would be interviewing people and they'd be in tears because they don't have enough money or whatever.
Well, I think this next story touches on that a little bit, but I think for the most part, people haven't defaulted on their loans and their mortgages and their rent. And I think there's been, what is the word that you used before?
There's deferment.
No, it's the other one. Yeah, but you're just pushing it forward. I think we're coming up to the crossroads. We're coming up to a cliff, I think, where at the end of July, when all of this unemployment money has to be renewed or ends, and people haven't paid their credit cards and their mortgage and their rent for 3 months now.
And then they get fired.
And then they get fired, or we have to have 25% capacity and nobody's coming to your restaurant. I think in the next month or two, I'm praying and I have my fingers crossed that the virus itself won't be that bad, but I have no doubt that the economic casualties of this are coming soon. And I'm expecting everything to get crazy. Like, market's going to crash. Like, we have to have some sort of correction. And it's going to be at the end of July is what it feels like. But until then, I just don't know that you have stories of people actually closing. I don't know if you remember, like, Nana's Seafood. It was across from Igor's house in downtown Charleston. They closed. But, you know, it's like a hole-in-the-wall type of restaurant. But I bet you there's going to be a lot that close. They just haven't yet. Or the the websites haven't done all the interviews and written all the papers yet because they don't know.
It just seems like if I ran a business that was on the brink, like it wasn't doing that well anyway, and then this happened, and I was allowed to get unemployment, this would be the perfect time for me to close, take the money and run, and start preparing for whatever is next. But this idea that you're going to keep paying rent on your building and keep paying your employees and stuff through this, and then you're going to slowly come out of lockdown and realize your customers aren't there, and then fire everyone, and then close down your business, it just seems crazy.
If the government's going to give you money to cover all of your employees' costs, and it could cover your rent, why would you not take that? You would just delay that.
Yeah,
it's going to be the people who are on unemployment, and right now some people are making more money on unemployment than they were employed.
Maybe more than 50%.
But when that money gets pulled off the table and they don't have the job, and then even worse, there's no jobs to be had. Now the pool of unemployed people aren't just a number, but they're actually competing and trying to get these jobs. And then on top of that, we're only at 25 to 50% economy back. Like, it's all these layers that are going to stack to create a nightmare. And I think right now, if you're a business owner, not right now, but a month or two ago, you said, all I got to do is get the PPP. Got to get the money, get the loan, it's going to be forgiven. You get that, and it's held you over for a month or two, I guess
2.5,
2.5 months. But now that we're starting to see that some places are able to open and other places aren't able to open, and we don't know what's going to happen with the infection rates going forward, you now have to deal with this other layer that you probably didn't really consider before. You know, am I going to have business? Am I going to have customers? Are people going to be scared to come see me? You know, if I have to stay open at 25% capacity, I will not survive. I mean, how many restaurants said, I can't do food delivery? It's not profitable enough. I'm just going to not stay open.
Yeah.
So now if you say, well, the next game plan for 3 or 4 months is 25%, that's going to be the point where people say, you know what, I'm out. And my fear is, I hope that the PPP, I think 4 or 5 days ago, they released some new guidance on what will be used to determine if a loan is forgiven.
Okay.
My worry is that these companies are going to fail before all those requirements are met, and many people that own small businesses will decide, I'm going to shut down, and I'll open a restaurant later, maybe in a year or two, but for now, I'm just going to get out of the game. But they took these loans, and somehow they're going to be on the hook for it.
Yeah.
And that could be even a bigger disaster, you know?
What's this next clip here?
Tomorrow, eviction proceedings are going to be able to move forward again. And as Ones for Justice reporter Alana Otler discovers today, landlords apparently have wasted no time in filing thousands of eviction cases.
Work is hard to come by for Reese Simone. Her hours as a home health nurse were cut due to the pandemic. And after falling behind on rent, she's now facing eviction.
It's a crisis going on. People got to understand these folks didn't lost jobs, losing hours. Some folks ain't working.
CBS 11 requested data from every justice of the peace court in Tarrant, Denton, Collin, and Dallas counties. We found since March 16th, more than 1,100 new eviction petitions have been filed. The Supreme Court order states proceedings can move forward starting tomorrow.
What's a little misleading, unless they say this, is what is the normal amount of evictions? You know what I mean? Like maybe this woman, I don't know about her, but maybe 90% of these people were going to be evicted anyway, and now it's been on hold because it didn't become illegal for like the last 2 months to evict people for not paying. So those people purposefully don't pay. I mean, why?
Why would you think, though, the numbers wouldn't be insane? Like, couldn't you do the same argument with like unemployment or something? Like, if all these jobs are done and people are not getting paid, maybe they are getting paid, but they don't have jobs. If you're a service industry person, you don't have a job to go back to necessarily.
I know, but I thought all these states have this easy to get unemployment if you can get past the phone call. I mean, everyone I know is on unemployment.
Yeah.
Why isn't this woman on unemployment? Why didn't she get the money from that to pay her bills?
I don't know. I mean, this story, is this one in Texas? Can't remember where this is. This Dallas, Fort Worth. This is in Texas, but the big headline today was this was happening in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
In Tampa, Florida, you just saw many people didn't get the unemployment because they can't get through the phones. So it's creating this system where, like, how long do you have to go before you get the money you need to pay your landlord, and is your landlord going to be understanding of that? Or is your landlord just like, I'm getting you out of here? I don't know, like, the landlords think they're going to find more tenants if everyone's unemployed?
Yeah, I don't think so, but all I'm saying is that when they say there's 1,100 new evictions, what if normally there's 10,000? You know, it's hard to know how many is normal in this area.
May 26th is the earliest eviction orders may be executed.
I think that it'll probably be a day of reckoning for both landlords and tenants.
The National Landlord Association says nationwide, 20% of tenants have fallen behind on rent. Director of Operations Christopher Flugie predicts a case backlog.
Landlords are typically put out there as the bad guys in scenarios like this, when in fact most of them are just running small businesses trying to make ends meet.
Yet housing advocates call our findings disheartening, especially as state unemployment claims near 2 million.
I am very surprised that any human being would think that it's okay to start the process of displacing another human being.
That process could soon start for Simone. Until then...
Wait. What did that woman just say?
She thinks it's unreasonable or unmoral to have any
eviction ever? She didn't.
I think she meant in the context of this.
Okay, that's not what she said.
You can hit back.
Let's hit back.
I am very surprised that any human being would think that it's okay to start the process of displacing another human being.
That process could soon start for Simone. Until then, she is asking for work and mercy.
I think it should be a lot more compassion. And we need more help because the situation is big. It's bigger than anything.
There are exceptions to this statewide moratorium. For example, if you live in a property backed by a federal mortgage, your moratorium could last until August. Some cities such as
Moratorium?
That's the word.
That's a new one. I hadn't heard that one. What is that? That's how long you have until you can't be evicted?
I think so.
Here how long you have until you can be evicted? So they said it would last until August.
Dallas have also passed extra protections for renters. In Dallas, Alana Altler, CBS 11 News.
It's a slippery slope, you know, because it's like the guy said, landlords typically are viewed as
rich, greedy, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Right, but that could be their business. You know, they have two houses that they've worked a long time to be able to build these or buy these properties, and their main income is your rent. And so to say we're going to give people the right to stay in that house, and it's not like it's a bank. You know, we're like, oh, screw the big bank. They missed out some mortgage payments, and they're going to repossess the house anyway after they evict somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and they foreclose on the house. Like if you own the home and like the squatters' rights and stuff, like to me that makes me not want to be a landlord.
Yeah.
When I start seeing these people that destroy homes and like the owner comes out way behind and they had a hard time kicking the people out, they didn't get the money.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like that makes me not want to do that type of business, but that's both sides have an argument to be, you know, there's an argument to be made on both sides. Like you don't want to be, you know, you want some compassion for people that are in this financial trouble because of the situation we're in, but I feel like that's 50% of it. The other 50% is the owner of the home is also in the same situation.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, they see like business owners as the, you know, evil rich guys, landlords as the evil rich guys, and then when there's a downtime or whatever, you know, you see this with, who's the Amazon guy?
Bezos?
Bezos all the time. You know, they'll be like, Bezos just made $1 billion today and he won't pay his employees to stay at home and not work. And I'm like, but you don't pay for anything you don't get access to. I mean, if you said, you know, what's one of your favorite products, like a new iPhone or whatever, and Apple came out and said, guys, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're not going to have a new iPhone this year, but could you please just go ahead and give us $1,000 this year because it's rough for all of us and we need the money so that we can pay our employees and stuff, and you're not going to get a phone this year, but you know, you appreciate what we've done for you, right? Like we create these awesome products and services for you, so if you could, just please pay us, and you know, maybe next year we'll start delivering products and services again. You'd go, screw you, I'm not paying you for something that you're not going to get. And it's the exact same thing with business owners, you know? It's like, How far does it go? You think just because somebody owns a business, they deserve to pay you to not work? For how long? Like 1 month, 2 months, 5 years, as long as it's a little dangerous outside? That seems crazy to me. You think just because somebody has a mortgage on a house, or maybe they got the house paid off, you deserve to live in their house for free without paying? I can't get behind any of this. And I'm all for showing people mercy and being kind to people and giving people free stuff, but when people act like they deserve it, then I'm like, I don't know that like you're the person I want to be donating to.
And there's also a conversation to be had with your landlord, you know? Like my parents had a conversation with their landlord about the dental practice, and they were like, we can't afford to pay this for months and months on end, but we've been good tenants for 15, 20 years. We've always paid on time. We've like improved the value of the property, and the landlords understand it. You know, he says like, wow, you have been great. Now, if you've only been there for your first year and you've been behind on your payments and now you don't have a job to pay for it all, like at some point it just turns into a situation where you're like, yeah, this isn't a good business
It's a
decision.
negotiation from both ends.
Right.
From your parents' perspective, they can be like, look, we've been great tenants. You can kick us out right now. Like we don't have the money to pay while we can't work. And it's going to take you 3 years to find somebody to take this up. And in the meantime, you're going to lose out on 5-10 grand a month for the next 3 years.
Even if it only took 6 months, that's still
You're still way behind. So just give us some mercy for the next month or two. We're going to lose income. You're going to lose a little income. But together, we're both coming out of this on the other end and we're going to make more money. Then like it's a smart decision from the landlord's perspective as well.
Yeah.
And when you said, like, why would the landlord want to kick someone out? Is like, are they going to have an easy time getting someone else? No, they're not going to have an easy time getting someone else. And that's what makes me think when I hear about these evictions, everyone I know that's a landlord that's evicting people, these people are horrible tenants.
Yeah.
These people are liars. These people destroy the houses. Things have to get really bad for you to forcibly kick people out of the house. You know what I mean? Logan asks, what's the status of Lee's meth house? Quick update for anybody who hasn't heard. My house in the States is on Airbnb, and when this pandemic hit, I lost 100% of all my bookings. Like, they all just dropped off completely. And this woman wrote and said she wanted to book the house for like, maybe it was first 3 days, and then she moved in, and then she was like, I want to extend for 2 weeks, and then I want to extend for another 2 weeks, then I want to extend for another week, now I need to extend for another 5 days. Like, she ended up going for something like 40 days straight in my house, and she wanted to extend again, but we couldn't because we had other guests coming.
You got new reservations.
Our reservations are totally booked up again.
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah, for the next 3 months, we're totally booked. I can't believe it. But
I wonder, are you able to see where people are from? Do you think it's Northerners, like people from big cities that are like?
See where they're from.
They're like trying to get out of New York, and they're like, we're gonna go somewhere. That's...
I'll look into it. I'll see if I can tell. But anyway, this family who stayed in my house for like 40 days, they were weird. They seemed like meth head people. They were up all night. The husband's coming and going all night long, every hour. Maybe he was selling drugs or something. I don't know. The wife, I'm watching her walk out on my front porch wearing my bed sheets and stuff. It's just not stuff normal adults do. So I was thinking the whole time, like, man, yeah, they're paying me a lot of money, but they got to be destroying my house. They had kids in there. There was always like big groups of people were coming over. Well, David went over to the house the day they moved out. And he was like, Lee, I have key code locks on all the doors. And he was like, all of the doors don't work. I think the battery is dead on all the doors. And I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Because we don't change the batteries, and you use the front door 10 times more than the back door and stuff. But he goes over there and he's like, yeah, man, like I think the battery, like we can't get into the house, and I don't even own a key for my house anymore. So he has to break into the house. He finds a window that's unlocked, and using a crowbar, he's able to get the window up. He comes into the house, realizes that the meth head family had changed the door lock codes. That seems a little like something drug dealers would do. But he said for the most part, the house was in great shape. He said there's a few black marks on my hardwood floor that look like maybe the kids rode a bicycle inside or something, but he didn't act like it was that big of a deal. And he was like, other than that, the house looks like it's in pretty good shape.
Didn't smell like meth or cigarette smoke,
I
at
don't
least?
think so. Yeah, we saw them coming in the house like with cigarettes in their mouth, but I don't think so. And they paid over $9 grand.
Really?
Yeah. So I was joking with David when all this was going on, and we thought like we're not getting any more bookings for the rest of the year. I was like, this couple is going to be like 30% of our income for the year.
Yeah.
But everything's good now, and like
And now
we're
you just
totally
have
booked up.
renters coming in and out, and it's like back to business
to
as
normal.
usual.
Yeah, it's so weird. We even had one couple who said they wanted to come for some big race, some marathon in Charleston, but the marathon got canceled. But they still want to come and hang out in the house. Okay, so that's crazy.
Well, I don't want to say I eat my words, but like a month or two ago, I was thinking this is going to be disastrous for Airbnb, and maybe it still will be. Do you think people are going to New York City right now and getting Airbnbs and feeling like...
It's got to be less than normal, but I also think that the Airbnb thing, I imagine, will be hit simply because if there's a depression or a recession, people will just have less money to go on vacation in general.
But people don't realize they're in that state yet.
Right.
Well, this was something I was talking to one of my friends about in a WhatsApp group, is just the idea that I know so many people that have their lives pretty secured. They work for themselves, they're photographers that have other income streams and stuff. And many people are saying, like, I'm not doing these crazy things. Like, we're not buying our dream house now. We had a contract, we got out of it, and I'm not going to buy the fancy boat, or I'm not going to be doing the cruises and stuff that we always do. Like, we're just going to kind of sit in place and chill and see what happens.
Yeah.
But then I know so many other people that were the same people that are complaining about, like, I haven't gotten my $1,200 from the government yet. I'm checking every day. They're the ones, in many cases, that are traveling to Charleston and getting the Airbnb and taking the vacation because I got to get out of the house. I've been locked up for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, like, if you can't save your money because you've been locked up for 2 months and you aren't 100% positive you have a job, it's like the worst possible situation. And I just find it interesting to see like the human dynamic of people who are, we have a buddy here who wants to, try to sell his business, and like all of these things are changing the way that they're approaching the world, because it feels like certain things aren't as good of a deal, or they're not going to get as much money as they would have selling. Buying a house, man, maybe the housing market's going to correct in a year or two. Interest rates are zero now. Like, there's all these things that are moving that people just feel like, I'm going to sit back and wait. But a lot of people that don't understand all those dynamics are saying, man, I'm going to go out, I'm still buying my house. I've heard that from so many people, and I'm thinking, you sure you want to buy the upgraded house right now? Just stay in the home that you're in. Seems like a bad time to be doing that if I were you. And a lot of my friends are photographers,
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, like, do you have the income? Like, oh, yeah, all my brides are going to get rescheduled. And I'm thinking, are you sure about that? I don't know.
Aaron V says, Lee is right. I'm a landlord, and it would take a few strikes for me to evict. Patrick, you have to vet your tenants, just like I did with my meth heads.
You don't vet anybody on Airbnb, though, do you? They just kind of come in and...
No, but
Airbnb.
I think we do have the right to vet people. I mean, I guess we can vet anyone, but usually people send us a note and tell us what they want to do in the house. And then they also let us know how many people are coming. We had one lady, and I'm so glad she told us what she wanted to do. She was like, I want to throw a kid's birthday party at your house with an under-the-sea theme, and I'm going to bring in water slides for your backyard. And I'm like, no, I'm not renting you my house for 40 kids, wet and muddy, coming through my house. Are you insane?
Yeah.
So we vetted her. She wasn't allowed in. Good Lord, it's been 2 hours. We have got to get these videos down to 45 minutes. I swear, every day I'm like, I don't have anything to talk about today.
Orion says, no laptop audio buzz. What was the fix? Have we actually even done anything?
It's not fixed at the moment, but I'm starting to think that VLC Player might be playing natively 50% louder than that other application we were using before. And if it plays louder, then the buzz would just
Pushes the noise floor lower.
Maybe, but we think we figured out the problem.
Was it Orion? One of these guys recommended we get the Radial SB6.
Yeah.
I bought that. Maybe I should have bought the SB5. It just had the headphone jack, and I felt like that could be less useful in some ways. But I've been able to, I don't have all the correct adapters, but I ran it through one side of the channel, the left side. I can't run it in stereo yet, and it definitely reduced the buzz. But then this thing was like $100, but then you bought one that's like a headphone jack ground lift.
Yeah.
For like $10?
Yeah, $10 on Amazon. If you go on Amazon and type in 3.5 millimeter ground lift, they sell these little boxes with a little headphone in and a headphone female, and they're for car audio. And it's to stop the electrical loop, I guess maybe when you're like plugging in your phone and you have the headphone going into your phone.
Okay.
And so your car is powering the head unit and powering your phone. It can create that buzz. That's the problem that we're having.
I wouldn't have even thought like DC Power would have had a ground problem.
I don't know, but there's a bunch of these products, and they're all for car audio, and they're $10. So you bought this big ass box for $150 that requires 30 different adapters to make it work, and I bought something for $10, but it's not quite here yet. So I'm
Well, I
waiting
think
for
my
that.
adapters. I'm buying everything on eBay now. eBay like ships out. It's like normal people, and they're trying to move product. They will get it out the next day. I'm getting confirmations and stuff.
Yeah, the problem is that I'm having trouble. I bought a lot of stuff on eBay recently, then it's all of a sudden you buy it and then you realize it's coming from Shenzhen, and it's going to be a month.
You got to sort by zip code.
I'm
But
buying
Amazon, everything on Amazon, at least here in Puerto Rico, it's like a month. It's 3 weeks from getting, and I'm like, I don't have time for this.
77 DRIS says Canada, woman tests positive 10 times in 57 days. You know, we talked maybe a month ago about that guy, that YouTuber who was like that. He was like, I feel like I have the world record for longest number of days with COVID. But there was a study recently, I don't know if it's in one of the videos I have today or not, but I watched it today, and the study was saying that potentially when you are most sick, you might not be very contagious. When you're like coughing up a lung, you are not potentially as contagious as when you felt fine and you're just breathing on people.
That seems strange.
And then they said that even if you take the test and you're positive, you may not be contagious at that point, which was interesting. Let's see, I think we got a couple more clips here, and we got to get the hell out of here.
This is the last one. We already played the vitamin.
Oh, one more clip. Okay, this clip doesn't have that much information, but somewhat interesting.
The scientific evidence shows that few children are likely to become ill from coronavirus. In the largest review of the evidence so far, children and adolescents were found to be half as likely to catch coronavirus as adults. Around the world, scientists have been looking at the blood of both children and adults who've had COVID-19 to try and work out how infectious children are. What data there is suggests children are no more likely than adults to spread coronavirus. In fact, there's some evidence to show that they transmit the disease less than adults. Why's this? We don't really know yet. Also, the World Health Organization states that countries which have had COVID-19 and kept schools open have not seen big outbreaks centered around schools. We know that children can catch coronavirus, but what's not clear is how infectious children are, because there's not enough scientific evidence to draw any definite conclusions.
So I thought that was pretty interesting that WHO is coming out and basically saying you don't need to shut down schools.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of any of this, because it's just like one day and 1 week you hear this, and then the next week you hear this, and it's speculated this. I mean, and people just politicize it so much. I'm not talking about like Donald Trump and left and right. I'm just saying they're like personal stands. You always say like, if one person dies, there are people who are like, we need to move to Sweden, and then there are people who are like, Sweden has destroyed their country, and it's horrible what they've done. People just take these like extreme sides, and I feel like you and I keep going back and forth like, I don't know, should school start back? I feel like there's no way school can start back. You can put all those teachers in there and make them all like come back to their families, and it just feels bad, but then maybe there's some evidence that's saying it won't be that bad. I don't know what to make of any of it. I feel as confused as everybody else.
Well, Patrick, is there anything else you have to say?
I don't believe so. Is Touche Films doing a...
Yeah, I haven't seen Touche. Are you doing a after party? Once again, I am just dead. I can't do it
I'm
tonight.
so
Tomorrow, let's do a shorter show, and let's do the after party.
Watch the market crash, and it's like
We're
the
gonna
news.
talk for 3 hours tomorrow. No, we can't do that.
All right.
It's ridiculous. Like, who's watching 2-hour shows? It's crazy.
I think a lot of people come and go. I mean, we have 648 people in here.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, stay tuned. Touche is going to do a after party. He'll put it in the live link right now. But I think it is time for us to go. And today, we finally have an ending animation. We are super pro. So we'll see you guys tomorrow.